Yo, what's going on everyone? Z Karma here, back with another Cyberpunk video. In this one, I'll be going over all the skills on the body attribute and demonstrate how they work. I took the time to test each of these skills just to make sure they work and also show you exactly how they work. Feel free to drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more like this, feel free to subscribe as well. Starting off, let's look at Painkiller. This one, very simple. If you activate it, it unlocks slow health regen in combat, so while you're in combat, your health will generate slowly. There's also 3 perks that you can use with this to increase it even further. There is Combat Kid, which increases the percentage of your health regen rate by 1% for each percent of missing health. So if you're missing 90% of health, it'll start off with the regen rate of an extra 90%, and it'll taper down to whatever your percentage is at. We also have Speed Junkie. As long as you're sprinting, you have a 60% increase to your health regen rate. If you're jumping around and flying around with your dash, you will not be replenishing your health, so you always need to have your feet on the ground sprinting. And you also have Army of One. This one increases your health regen rate by 10% for each enemy nearby. And to be honest, with this perk, I noticed that the enemies have to be super close to you, almost punching distance. I did test each of these perks individually and tried all different combinations, and they all work, they all stack, it's really good. So let's just give a theoretical example. Let's say that with only Painkiller, it takes 30 seconds to recharge 100 health points. Well, let's say we start using Combat Kid, and let's just say that an average of 50% increase to my recharge rate during that time. And then we got Speed Junkie, and I'm always sprinting for some reason. I get an extra 60% to that. And then let's just say Army of One. There's always 3 enemies nearby me, stuck to me while I'm sprinting all over the map. That's another 30%. In total, that's a 140% increase to my recharge rate. So 140% increase to my recharge rate will make it so that instead of 30 seconds, it'll only take 12.5 seconds. Next up, we have Dwarf Head. It says when using Blood Pump Cyberware or a health item, your mitigation chance is increased by 100% for 2 seconds. And this one's actually pretty cool. In the previous perks we have seen, when mitigation chance is increased by 100%, it means that the current mitigation chance of whatever you have is doubled. In this case, it makes the mitigation chance itself 100%, which means that for 2 seconds after using my Blood Pump or my health item, you are guaranteed to mitigate damage. Here's a quick example. I normally take 92 damage from this enemy. My current mitigation damage is 55%. And after using a health item, I am guaranteed to only take 45% of the damage for 2 seconds. So I end up taking 42 damage. Next up, we have Adrenaline Rush. And as you can see, it has 3 levels. At level 1, it increases your health by 35 points, which that works. And at level 2, it increases your health regen bonus by an additional 20%. And for level 3, it unlocks Adrenaline Rush mode. So how do you activate Adrenaline Rush? You have to use a health item or Blood Pump Cyberware. When you use it, you'll get a little yellow bar on top of your health bar. That's the Adrenaline bar. That's like extra health. It'll give you 30% of your max health up there and up to a max of 50% max health. So your Adrenaline Rush can never be above 50% of your max health. And we also have Calm Mind, which adds a 3-second delay before adrenaline begins to decay. So normal adrenaline starts decaying. This just gives it a 3-second delay before it starts doing that. We also have Juggernaut, which this one works perfectly. When you have Adrenaline Rush active, you'll gain 20% movement speed and an increase to 10% to your damage. We also have Unstoppable Force. This one's pretty cool. It gains you immunity to movement penalties and non-damaging status effects such as knockdown, blinding, etc. So basically, the movement penalties are, for example, when you carry heavy machine guns or light machine guns that you're supposed to walk slower. This will basically get rid of anything that slows you down. And you'll also be immune to things like blinding. For example, in this video, I'm throwing a flash and it's not blinding me. And you're also immune to getting knocked down during this adrenaline rush. I also discovered a little bonus here. So even though shock and poison damage is status effect that is damaging over time, for some reason this one makes you immune to those 2 as well. As you can see in this video, for the toxic gas, it doesn't hurt when I have adrenaline active. And also for shock, I'm using an EMP grenade here. I do get damaged by the EMP explosion itself, but for the shock status effect, I'm not taking any damage. which shouldn't be happening. It is going to be patched eventually, I'm pretty sure. So enjoy it for now. And all the way up here, we have this perk. It's called Pain to Gain. While Adrenaline Rush is active, you get an increase of 20% health item recharge after neutralizing an enemy, which just means that while you have Adrenaline Rush active and you get a kill, you'll get a 20% item health recharge. So essentially, if you have Adrenaline Rush active and you manage to kill 5 enemies within that time before it expires, you'll have your health item recharged. Moving on, we have Wrecking Ball. At level 1, it reduces the stamina cost for using blunt weapons. At level 2, it allows you to barrel into enemies while sprinting and blocking with blunt weapons. So essentially, you can just run at enemies and then hit your block button as soon as you're going to run into them, and you'll push them down, giving you a chance to knock them down. We also have this perk over here. It's called Clap Back, which it says it gives you a 100% chance to knock down enemies with defensive attacks. What's a defensive attack? All you have to do is hold your block button and then click your attack button, and that's a defensive attack. If you use that on an enemy, it's a guaranteed knockdown, and then there's a cooldown of 10 seconds. So after you knock them down, you gotta wait 10 seconds to get another guaranteed knockdown. And it also gives you a guaranteed stun chance with counterattacks, and this works every single time. If you don't know how to do counterattacks, you just need to hold your block button exactly at the moment where the enemy is gonna hit you, and that'll create a counterattack. 100% of the time, you'll be able to stun them with no cooldown. We also have Breakthrough, which decreases enemy armor by 40% for 7 seconds after hitting them with a strong attack. In this game, you can't really see armor. It's like a hidden stat the enemy has, but I did notice a pretty decent difference in my damage I was doing after hitting the enemies with a strong attack. Next up, we have Fly Swatter, which reduces incoming damage from ranged weapons when you're blocking with your blunt weapons. And this actually works. In this video, this enemy was doing constant 48 damage to me without me blocking, but after I started blocking, they only did 29 damage, which is a 40% decrease. Next up, we have Kinetic Absorption, and this one says, blocking an attack gives 10% stamina, and a 30% damage increase with blunt weapons for 5 seconds. So let's look at stamina first. That one is not true. That one doesn't work. Normally, when you block an attack, you lose stamina. And with and without the perk, I was losing the same amount of stamina, so I didn't see a difference there. What you do get is a increase to 30% damage with blunt weapons for 5 seconds. I tested that, and that part does work. Moving on, we have Quake, which has 3 levels. At level 1, you get a decrease of 15% stamina cost for attacks with blunt weapons. And at level 2, you have a 20% attack speed with blunt weapons. The swing speed itself does not increase. What increases is the time between each swing. So essentially, you do increase attack speed. It doesn't really matter. At level 3, you can press Q to violently slam the ground and damaging and staggering nearby enemies with a chance of knocking them down. Quake can also be performed mid-air and do a superhero landing. And over here we have Epicenter. When Quake is performed from mid-air, its area of effect and damage will scale with your fall speed and fall distance. So as you can see in this video, I'm jumping from the same spot. When I first jumped without this perk active, I was doing like 50 to 60 damage. After I activated this perk, my damage went over 200. I was getting 3 to 4 times the damage just by using this perk, so I definitely recommend you get it. Then we have Aftershock. You gain 30% stamina for each enemy hit with Quake, and there is no limit on this. If there is enough enemies around, you will replenish your full stamina bar. Then we also have Ripple Effect. This one gives you 15% increase to your health for each enemy hit by Quake. Again, there is no limit to this. If there are enough enemies around, you will regen your full health bar. Then we have a finisher here. It's called Savage Sling. When your enemy's health is low, you can press F and do the finisher, or you can hold F and you can pick up your enemy and throw them against other enemies to damage them, or against anything you want, but they'll die. It's your finisher. And once you perform that finisher, you also get your health restored by 20%. Additionally, enemies that are stunned are more susceptible to be finished. So if an enemy isn't low enough on health but they're stunned, you'll be able to finish them. In fact, if you pair it with this other skill that gives you a 100% stun chance, where is it? This one over here, with counterattacks. You do a counterattack on an enemy and they're relatively low on health but not too low, you can probably finish them there. Moving on, we have Die, which is a perk here, which only affects shotguns, LMGs, and heavy machine guns. Just be mindful of that. It reduces your recoil by 15% at level 1 at low stamina, and at level 2, it increases fire rate as stamina decreases. And this actually works. The more you keep shooting and waste your stamina, the faster it'll shoot. We also have Bullet Belay, which is supposed to lower your bullet spread by 25% when moving. And this one does not work, guys. I tried it so many times. I did not see a difference. Also, normally when bullet spread is reduced, your crosshairs don't spread as much. And in this case, the crosshair was the same. If you guys saw my reflexes video, when bullet spread was reduced, crosshairs wouldn't spread as much when you spam. In this case, it remained the same, so there's no change. We also have Don't Stop Me Now, which also only affects shotguns, LMGs, and heavy machine guns. When below 33% stamina, you gain a 15% increase to your mitigation chance and also a 5% increase to your mitigation strength. And I've already talked several times about mitigation chance and strength. My current mitigation strength is at 55, plus this 5% should be 60%. So whenever I'm below 33% stamina, 15% of the time I will mitigate 60% damage. And we have Like a Feather. There's no movement speed with shotguns, light machine guns, and heavy machine guns. Normally, when you get a heavy gun like this, you walk slower, you run slower, you do everything slower. This will remove any movement penalty, so it's like you're running with your hands out. Next up, we have Spontaneous Obliteration. This one also only affects shotguns, LMGs, and heavy machine guns. At level 1, your recoil is reduced by 15% at low stamina. At level 2, you gain 10% damage against nearby enemies. Then at level 3, it unlocks Obliterate, the ability to sometimes instantly kill and dismember enemies at low health. Then at the bottom it says the chance increases as enemy health decreases. Max is a 20% obliteration chance. And I call BS on that one. There was no way I was getting obliteration on average 1 every 5 kills. That did not happen. In fact, I was using this so much that I thought it didn't work because I wouldn't get an obliteration. It took me like 5 minutes of killing enemies to be able to finally get one. I don't know if I was unlucky, but it wasn't happening that often. That's when I used this perk, Close Quarters Carnage. This one says, increased chance to obliterate enemies with ranged attacks at close range. It says max 10%, but that 10% helped tremendously. I saw a lot more increase in obliterations with this, so if you want to go this route, I would recommend you use this perk along with this one. Next up, we have Dread, which again only affects shotguns, LMGs, and HMGs, which reduces enemy armor by 50% when you're using ranged attacks, and dismemberment spreads the effect to nearby enemies. This one's a little confusing. Enemy armor is reduced by 15%. Yes, I basically did more damage with this perk active, and I think that spread effect just means that the effect of reducing enemy armor spreads to nearby enemies. And to be honest, you're using an LMG anyway or a shotgun and you're gonna shoot them, so they're still gonna get minus 15% armor. Anyway, moving on, we have Skullcracker. This one increases damage of quick melee attacks as stamina decreases. Max amount you're gonna get is an increase of 200% at 0 stamina. I did extensive testing on this, and I can confidently say that this increase of 200% is actually only 100% increase. I tried it so many times and I could not for the life of me get a 200% increase in damage even though my stamina was at 0. And of course this only affects shotguns, LMGs, and SMGs. And if you don't know how to do a quick melee attack on PC, you just click Q. It's basically a melee attack with your weapon out instead of a melee weapon in your hands. But anyway, I noticed that my damage when I did this and activated the perk would only go up to 100% increase, which means I was doing twice the damage. And honestly, I think it's just worded wrong. At plus 200% damage, it should be tripling the damage, but my testing only gave me twice the damage, like I mentioned, which is a 100% increase. So just be mindful of that, especially you math nerds out there. Next up, we have this perk over here. It's called Rush of Blood. And again, this only affects shotguns, LMGs, and HMGs. You gain 20% reload speed for 8 seconds after dismembering an enemy. And yeah, this does work and it's pretty noticeable. When you dismember an enemy, if you need to reload, it'll be 20% faster. And then we have this perk called Bloodlust. It only affects shotguns, LMGs, and HMGs, and when you have Adrenaline Rush active, every time you dismember an enemy, you gain 50 adrenaline. But just be mindful that you can only ever have your Adrenaline Rush equal to a max of 50% of your health. So even if you get a bunch of dismemberments in a row, your Adrenaline Rush bar will never go over half of your health. And all the way up here, we have Rip and Tear, which is a really good perk. Essentially, if you shoot an enemy with a shotgun, your next quick melee attack will do double the damage. And after using quick melee with double the damage, your next shotgun shot does double the damage. And unfortunately, this doesn't stack multiplicatively, which means you're not going to get 200, then 300, then 400%. No, you're always going to get double the damage as long as you quick melee, then use a shotgun shot, then quick melee, use a shotgun shot. And what's really cool about this is you can choose different enemies. You can quick melee one, shoot the other, and then quick melee a different enemy and then shoot a different one. And your damage will keep on being twice the damage as long as you alternate between the two. But what I'm trying to say basically is you don't have to focus on just one enemy in order for this to work. And finally, we have Onslaught, which does exactly what it says, exactly as advertised, only affects LMGs, and you get a 20% ammo refill after neutralizing an enemy with the light machine gun. And yeah, it does that basically. Melt down enemies, your weapon keeps reloading by itself. It does use your reserve ammo, so don't think that you have infinite ammo. If you run out of reserve, you will run out of ammo. And yes, this also works with extended mags. If your extended mag brings your ammo capacity to 500, you'll replenish 20% of 500 every time you get a kill. And guess what, guys? We're basically done. I mean, there is a car perk over here, but I don't want to go over any of the vehicle perks anymore. I'm going to cover them in a separate video for vehicle combat. Anyways, guys, that's all that we have here for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, please feel free to drop a like. And if you really enjoyed it and want to see more stuff like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.